So today we're here to discuss the thermal expansion option that's available in the TJ Snow WeldComputer AC inverter control. Now, what is thermal expansion? Well, very simply put, thermal expansion is the tendency of matter to change in volume in response to a change in temperature. Now, there are many controls out there on the market that are trying to control the welding process by one means or another. This guy's monitoring current, this guy's monitoring voltage, this guy's monitoring resistance, but nobody's looking at what's going on in the weld. Well, thermal expansion allows you to do just that. It gives you a bird's eye view of actually what's going on in the fusion zone of the weld as it occurs. With the use of a displacement sensor that's seen here, what we're going to do is actually monitor the expansion of the weld, thermal expansion of the weld. Not just at the beginning, not just at the end, but throughout the entire weld. Now, we can do this a couple of different ways. We can do it with monitoring only, or we can do it with adaptive feedback. With monitoring only, what we do is we make a good weld and establish what that expansion envelope needs to be. And then we're going to set limits around that. And should we fall out of the limits, we'll generate a fault. And then you, the user, can dictate how you want to respond to that fault. We have many options available. Then we're going to do adaptive feedback. Now, with adaptive feedback, it's a little bit different. We're still going to monitor the weld within an expansion window, but this time, we're not going to give it an opportunity to even get out of the window. If we see that the expansion is about to drift out of our pre-described window of limits, we are going to make incremental increases or decreases to the current output to ensure that we stay well within our expansion window and so that we make exactly the same weld each and every time, irregardless of changing conditions in the weld area. So now let's talk a little bit about tip wear. Now, you folks out there that make spot welds day in and day out full well know that as you make spot weld after spot weld after spot weld, the tip face gets larger and larger and larger due to heat and forging force, to a point where you can't even make a good weld anymore because now you're trying to put the same current into a much greater area. What we're going to demonstrate to you today using adaptive feedback and thermal expansion is how we can monitor and adapt for those conditions while extending your electrode life. In our demonstration today, we're actually going to weld on both electrode faces, 3/16 and 3/8. And note the difference in thermal expansion. After this, we're going to turn on our adaptive feedback control. And what we will do is weld again on the larger faced electrode, and note that the control adapts and brings us back into our expansion window and subsequently a good weld result. So let's weld on the small electrode face first. So here you can see we've made our first weld. Now let's take a look at our expansion window. So here you can see we have a total expansion of the metal of 159 microns, and we're well within our expansion window. Now let's do a peel test and look at the weld result. Here you can see where we peeled the weld, and we have a weld nugget at approximately 3/16 of an inch in diameter. Now let's weld on the larger face with the same weld schedule. You can see here now that we have faulted the control. We've locked the head down on the suspect part, and as we reset our fault, you can see now that we have fallen below our expansion window with our weld. So as you can see, our weld nugget is extremely small, less than adequate for our needs. So now let's turn on the adaptive feedback and let's make that weld on the larger face again and check the result. As you can see, with adaptive feedback turned on, we are now right in the middle of our expansion window with a total expansion of 136 microns on the 3/8 faced electrode. Let's peel this weld though and see if that expansion window translates to a good weld on the larger face. Here you can see the result with thermal expansion adaptive control turned on. Our weld nugget is much larger and falls well within the required specification for the application.